Welcome to Strange Planet. Well, he's been behind the wire, deep in the shadows, where truth and deception are weapons of war. Adam Hardage is a former CIA operations officer, a combat veteran, and a man who has seen the machinery of psychological warfare from the inside. He conducted covert missions across the Middle East and Europe. He speaks fluent Arabic. He's watched how nations, cultures, and entire populations can be controlled, not by bullets, but by information. Now he's sounding the alarm. Hardage believes the same tactics once used to destabilize foreign governments are now being turned inward on our own citizens through a new kind of warfare, artificial intelligence. In his explosive new book, The Alpha Blueprint, Preparing the Next Generation for an AI Future, he warns that the real battlefield of the 21st century isn't physical, it's spiritual, it's psychological, it's happening in our homes, in our children's minds, and in the algorithms that shape what we see, think, and believe. He's been called a patriot, a man of faith, and a warrior for truth. And tonight he joins me to pull back the curtain on the secret architecture of control, to explain how AI, big tech, and the intelligence apparatus are converging to reprogram humanity, and how we can still fight back. Adam Hardage, welcome to Strange Planet. How are you?
I'm great, Richard. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You've run black ops in the world's most dangerous places, Iraq, Afghanistan, the shadows of Europe. You've seen how intelligence agencies manipulate hearts and minds. So let me ask you this straight. Are those same psychological warfare tactics now being used on us?
At its simplest, psychological warfare is always being employed against global populations, whether it's, if you think about it, you go back to, this ad or this show is brought to you by Pfizer, right? So, if somebody is sponsored by Pfizer or something, they're certainly not going to speak out in case, let's say they come out with a drug that is, very questionable, like as in the case of COVID vaccines or whatever else like that. So we've seen the most obvious kinds of manipulation that society has really become aware of, I think really started to reveal themselves during the COVID pandemic and are continued today. But what I think is most fascinating is, so AI, the development of artificial intelligence and the technology that goes with it is moving at such a rapid clip that even the tech entrepreneurs and CEOs that are manufacturing this stuff are like, good Lord, we're not even sure where this is going to go 100% of the time. So I think the real problem actually comes into not necessarily that governments at this time are going to be able to launch manipulated campaigns that are designed to sway public opinion. It's more that the technology is moving so quickly, you don't even have a regulatory body within your elected sort of Politburo that knows even what AI is. I mean, heck, we had somebody running for president that tried to tell us how to spell AI. I mean, this is literally the kind of world that we live in is, you've got people that are supposedly supposed to be the regulators that don't even understand the basics of the technology. And then the people that are actually manufacturing it themselves are like, we're not really sure where this is going to go. So I unpack a little bit of that. I don't claim to be, the end-all be-all expert of AI, and I'm not a theologian, but I mix a lot of my spiritual beliefs, a lot of my field experience, and a lot of the sort of tried and true hard lessons and to try and guide. What I'm doing now is I'm trying to guide this next generation into a world, a future driven by AI, not in a way that where they put their heads in the sand and say, oh, I can't look at this, I can't pay attention to it, but more in the way of how do you preserve your own soul, your own sanity? How do you learn to discern truth from fiction? How do you know when you're being lied to, when you're being manipulated, when you are the victim of deceit? And when so the biggest takeaway that I have at this point is that we live in a world designed to make people carbon copies of literally a system, so a copy of a copy of a copy, and AI is a perfect tool to do that. So I try and arm this next generation with some practical things that they can do to keep themselves, in the thrive mode rather than just survive mode.
You write that AI isn't just changing technology, it's reprogramming humanity. Coming from a man trained in covert influence, what do you see that the rest of us don't? I mean, how exactly is artificial intelligence being used to engineer consent, for example?
Yeah, well, so I go into that a lot in the book. In fact, the first part of the book is called "The World of Lies," and it's an introduction. It's written like it's a love letter from a father to the next generation, and every chapter begins with "Dear kids," and it's literally like an introductory letter of like, "Hey kids, I've got some tough love for you, and this is the reality of the situation. You are being lied to this way, and this way, and everybody knows it, and we all see it, and we can all tell that something is not right." But then the question is, what do you do with that information? And so in a world where AI can literally change my Instagram feed before I've even scrolled to the next post, because let's say I'm looking at something and I laugh and I forward it to a buddy, or I, make a comment to my wife or whatever else, that is just updated in real time, the algorithmic next offer that it's going to show me as I scroll through that. So we are being manipulated in real time. So what I see on my Instagram feed is not what you see. And what you see is not what your neighbor is going to see. And we may even have the same beliefs, the same value set, the same everything else. We may even like the same accounts, but it's going to be tailor-made for what you are specifically, your interest, Richard Schrett's interests are at that exact moment. And so you have to understand that those tools, the AI tools, they're not ideological in a sense of in themselves, that they are trying to get you to move to a certain beat. What they are is they are programmed by humans to influence you towards a certain direction. Usually it's a benign sense of capitalism, where it's saying, hey, I really like underwater basket weaving, and so I'm going to get ads for underwater basket weaving every 10 seconds on my Instagram feed or my X feed, whatever it is. And so the principle is the same, but when it becomes really dangerous is when you get the nation state involved, and then there becomes a political agenda, and anything that is outside of that gets crushed by the machine. And we started to see that in COVID, and now this was really kind of pre-AI rollout. COVID was. It was really a warm-up for the world. It was a test to see, okay, during lockdowns, during mandates, during all this other control things that the global elites are trying to put into place, who is going to bend the knee, who's going to go along with it, who's going to say yes, and who are the problem makers, right? Who are the Richards and the Adams of the world that are going to look around and say, wait a second, this is not right. I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to say no to that. In fact, I go into this in the book too, because during COVID, when it first started, as you probably recall, I was running the company Remote Health Solutions. I left the CIA back in 2017. I was done with government service, and I became an entrepreneur, and I was running my company Remote Health Solutions, and everything was going great up until COVID hit. And then in early 2020, I realized very quickly that this is a manufactured information operation, not COVID, not the disease. I can't speak to that itself. I'm not going to claim that ground. But what I can say is that the response to the disease, the globally coordinated response, where you've got, commercials showing these idiot, hospital workers dancing around in their masks, literally like, yeah, it's all so great. You've got people spray painting circles in parks, where there's air. It's like, oh, you can go into a restaurant and you got to keep your mask on until you get to your table, because COVID doesn't get you if you're sitting down, but if you stand up, you got to put your mask on. It's those kind of silly things, and they really are just silly things, but what they are tools of compliance. And so everything that a government embodies at the end of the day is force. And what I mean by that, it is they want control, and it could be benign control. It might not be control, but they want control and they want compliance.
Yeah, they have a monopoly on violence. They own all the guns.
That is right. That's right. That's why the Second Amendment is there in case the first one no longer is viable. So, and we've seen a lot of that during COVID. We saw a lot of the shutdown of our First Amendment rights. You couldn't speak out. I spoke out against COVID and my company was destroyed. We had won a dozen contracts with the Defense Department by the time COVID hit in my company because we had some amazing technology and we were helping save a lot of lives. But when I spoke out and I went against the narrative and I called COVID for what it was, which was a globally coordinated information operation designed to bring in a soft color revolution into the U.S. and upset or unseat a duly elected sitting president, i.e. Trump 45, I was immediately canceled. And when I say that, I'll tell you, I was banned from Twitter permanently, shut down across. We couldn't run ads on Google, Facebook, Instagram, completely canceled. We lost our corporate insurance. We lost the ability to process credit cards twice. We lost all of our government contracts, including a $100 million program of record that would have taken our company into the stratosphere. Our company was completely destroyed. We couldn't even process anything commercially. We tried to pivot and go into direct-to-consumer e-commerce. We tried to build a telehealth network for healthcare providers who had been forcibly removed. Remember, they fired healthcare workers for refusing the mandate, refusing the lockdowns, refusing a questionable vaccine. And I will say, before 2022, you never heard the term turbo cancer.
No.
Now you hear that term a lot. And everybody goes, oh, gee, I wonder why. Where could that have come from? And then if you say anything about it, you're labeled what? A conspiracy theorist. And I know how this works because I worked for the very organization that coined the term. So I look around and I see it, and I don't care if people believe me with the things I say or not. Those who have ears to hear and eyes to see will know that I am speaking truth. Those that don't, it's fine. We just move on from that.
Can you maybe give us an example of how AI was used to further enhance that information control, that force that compliance upon the population? How did the government and other, let's say, international type agencies utilize AI in this regard during COVID?
During COVID, I didn't see it as prevalent because the technology was still very young and frankly emerging. And it wasn't, you didn't have GPT and you didn't have Claude Gemini, you didn't have Grok, you didn't have the competing platforms that you do now. But I'm blanking on the word right now, but the censorship, there we go. The censorship of any dissenters who would speak out oftentimes actually had to be done manually. So that's why you've got a paper trail, where you've got the Biden administration that's pumping out, where you've got Mark Zuckerberg testifying in front of Congress saying, oh, we were literally given a list of companies to cancel. We were given a list of individuals to cancel, and we were directed by the government to do this. Now, that's not me saying it. That's not conspiracy theory. Go watch your congressional testimony of Mark Zuckerberg talking about this. And, should he have done it? Should he have fought against it? You could debate that however you want. But so the difference is, back then, it was more manual manipulation, more manual censorship. It still took people. You still had algorithmic censorship where Facebook would know, okay, this meme or this post or this, they say this bad word. And that's why you see a lot of times on social media, people will say, and we were all going with the, and then they won't say the word.
Right, air quotes.
Because they know that they'll be censored, but everybody who's watching it knows what they're talking about. So that was kind of version 1.0, if you will. That's manual censorship. Now, they don't have to do that. AI will literally just remove it before it even hits the airwaves. It's so you're scrolling your X account or your Instagram account. Before you can even scroll to the next thing that they're going to show you, whether it's a funny thing, a serious thing, a political thing, or whatever. Before you can even scroll to that, AI has the ability to change what is going to be presented to you based on real-time information that you are presenting to that thing that's staring you in the face all day long, listening to everything you say. So the manipulation has gotten way more subtle, way harder to detect, and much more dangerous. So that's really kind of where we are. Before it was more manual with algorithms and people. Now the algorithms are set, and whoever's controlling that AI or those bots will be the one to dictate what information and what reality is presented to you or not presented to you.
You've said before that the battlefield has moved from the desert to the digital. As a former CIA officer, does it feel to you like we're now living inside one vast ongoing psychological operation, a psyop?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, and there's a variety of reasons for that. Some of it is, drink more Coke, don't drink Pepsi. Another is, take your shot and be a good boy. Don't question anything, stay in line. You want your food pellet, then you better do these things. And by food pellet, I mean, your every 2-week government, subsidy, your paycheck, your Social Security. All that stuff. So government is force. I think it was Washington that said that, and he said it, and it rang true then, and it is still true today. At the end of the day, government is force, and they want control at your expense. So I go into that in the book as well. Again, the book is The Alpha Blueprint. It's available on Amazon.com. Sales are killing it right now. We've just released the book 6 weeks ago. I was very honored that my old boss, General Flynn, endorsed it and wrote the foreword for it. So if anybody's wondering about my credibility as a former Fed, you can know that America's general backs it and backs me. So that being said, I see the world through both my secular experience in the real world and then a biblical lens, because I am a man of faith and a God-fearing man who believes that my calling is to lead, while I still have breath in my lungs, this next generation as much as I can to where I can keep them away from harm by having a real sense of who they are, by knowing themselves and understanding what their God-given purpose and spark is in life, and then having tools to use AI in a responsible way while benefiting from the tool without putting their brain in a jar and without becoming a carbon copy of a carbon copy. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's where we are today.
Well, most Americans think of AI as convenience, smarter phones, faster apps, but you've seen the machinery of surveillance and persuasion up close. Do you believe AI is a tool of progress or the next phase of control?
AI is a hammer, or it's a gun, or it's any other tool that's out there. And it depends on how you use it. It can be used for nefarious or noble purposes. And so I say, my philosophy, my guiding philosophy on this is the AI is here to stay. It's not going away. It is a real thing. And so you have to understand that what it has done is, in essence, democratized PhD level intelligence globally for $20 a month. So now everyone is driving an intellectual Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a McLaren F1. Everybody's got a supercar intellectually now by typing in a little prompt and getting things. So now you've got a 15-year-old kid in Lagos, Nigeria, for example, that can write a business plan on par with a Harvard MBA who's got a hedge fund team and a team of lawyers backing him up and, $100 million deep pocket bank account. So it's really leveled the playing field and provided some opportunity in that regard. But if the only thing you're doing is using AI to just do the work for you, then there's no soul, there's no creativity, there's no originality, and you become that carbon copy of a copy of a copy, and you won't go anywhere in life. So the way I think about it is AI is like a NASCAR race. And in NASCAR, theoretically, every car is tuned exactly the same, right? They weigh the same, the tires are the same, the engines are the same size, displacement, all that stuff. And now for my NASCAR fans out there, I know that is not exactly 100% correct. I sponsored NASCAR for a while, so I know enough about it to be dangerous, but the theory holds. The difference, who wins the race, should not then come down to the vehicle, but it should come down to the individual creativity, the guts, the grit, the drive, the determination of the individual driver. And so that is what the future is AI has made everybody a super duper NASCAR F1 driver. But then the question then comes down to you. How well do you know yourself? How strong are you in your own faith and convictions? And how grounded are you in your own faith and spirituality to where you can be your own creative individual and understand God's given desires and dreams for you? And the only way to do that is to get close to your maker, to humble yourself before the Lord, and to follow, frankly, the book of wisdom, the Holy Bible. I used to think of the Bible as, it was a neat book with a lot of great rules for how to live. And now I see it as literally a day-to-day living field manual for how to avoid the pitfalls of this world that is, as they would say in Ephesians, controlled by the rulers of principalities and authorities. So I try and, in my book, I try and get the younger generation to understand how to really put on the full armor of God and how to, maintain their individual God-given creativity. And so they will always be manipulated. They will always be lied to. They will always be deceived by corporate, by government, by anyone, frankly, that wants either their stuff, wants to get over on them on a business deal, or they want to get away with something, whatever it is. The world is full of lies, and it's going to be full of lies. And it's always been full of lies and always will be full of lies. But if they have the right understanding and the right mental framework and the right tools at their disposal, which I really go into, and which their parents should go into, because what I would say is, parents, sit down with your kids, read this book, and go through it and say, all right, listen, this is the world you're going into, because I've got a 10-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. So do I tell them, I want you to go to college in 10 years, and I want you to get a 4-year degree and rack up student loan debt and go out in hopes that you can get a great job at a Fortune 500 company, work for 30 years, invest in your Roth IRA, and understand that Social Security and Medicare are going to be there for you at the end of the day. My friend, that ship has sailed. That world is gone. And so we have to have better tools, a better plan, a better way ahead. So that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah, I like that term you use, the phrase democratization of the PhD level education, which I think is exactly true. But so what does that mean about the future of brick and mortar higher education? What do you tell your children about going to university after? I mean, what comes after high school?
And this is the conversation, right? And this is why it then becomes important. See, here's the kicker. This next generation, the alphas, that's why it's called the alpha blueprint, is because this next generation are called the alphas. So, my son and my daughter, the alpha generation, you got the Gen Zers, and I'm super jazzed about the Gen Zers. I mean, I think they are kicking butt, and I totally support them as a generation. I think they're awesome. I think Gen Xers, which I'm part of, and the millennials, which my little brother is part of, I think we got kicked in the teeth the hardest, because we had the transition from the boomers where they had a society where the rules kind of worked for them, right? And it was that go to college, work for 30 years, get a retirement, Social Security, Medicare, and your 401k will be there for you. It kind of works for them, and that's great. But then we're left holding the bag in Gen X and Gen Z, Gen X and the millennials. And so we're scratching our heads with crisis after crisis after crisis, whether it was the .com thing, the Y2K thing, the real estate collapse, international finance collapse, 9/11, endless wars in the Middle East. You name it, ad nauseum, right? And it feels like we have just lurched from one crisis to the next. And that's been the cross that our generation has had to carry as a collective. But what that should have done for each of us and our age is that it should have made us stronger and more resilient to where we can pass along some of the hard-fought lessons to this younger generation, the Zs and the Alphas. And so I'm saying, hey, Gen X and millennial parents, sit down with your kids and start having this exact conversation right now. It's going to be the most important conversation you ever have with your kids. And if you don't do it, you are frankly selling them short and you're setting them up for failure. Because my friend, as you probably know, student loan debt is the one debt that you can never discharge until you pay it off. It doesn't matter if you declare personal bankruptcy. It doesn't matter if you try and run away from it. Student debt will always be there with you. And I'm not saying do not go get student loan debt. If you want to go be a doctor, you want to go be an astrophysicist, you want to go be a biologist, an engineer, a mathematician, whatever it is. If it's something where there's a real tangible career that humans are still going to be needed in, at the end of that, and you think you have real career prospects, by all means, go for it. Or if you're of the financial means where you can afford to go do it, I think college is a wonderful experience. I think it's incredibly important, from the ability to learn to live on your own, to pay bills, to develop new friendships, to get away from your parents for a while, to spread your wings, to make some stupid, irresponsible decisions, like to jump off the roof into the pool, when you're too late at night and all the stupid stuff that college kids do. You know what I mean? So I do think that there's value in that. And then beyond that, there's a huge value in the network that people create and build in college, the human network. But if you're going into college because you want to be an art history major, or you want to study underwater basket weaving, or you think you're going to be the next greatest, whatever. I mean, pick any other soft profession. Or you think, I need to really understand how to do data analysis. My friend, no, go far in the other direction. So if you're a paralegal, if you're a bookkeeper, if you're somebody that does a white collar type job that is a generalist type of a job, you should be very worried.
Yeah, we thought with the robot apocalypse, we thought the first jobs to go would be the blue collar, the flipping burgers. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are totally robotic McDonald's, but by and large, it skipped over the blue collar and it went right for the white collar, which to me was totally unexpected. But you mentioned things like doctors and lawyers. I'm wondering if you want to become a GP, whether that's even going to be a thing in the next 10 years. You go to your general practitioner, they take your blood pressure, maybe they write you a script. I can see AI doing that. If you're a lawyer, they'll need some lawyers, but instead of going to work for a firm where they have 50 lawyers, they may need only 2 or 3 because, you've got AI that can look up every case law in the history of Western civilization in a nanosecond. Who needs lawyers?
Right. I'll put it. So, I mentioned that our company was destroyed for basically going against the narrative, going against speaking out against the managed lockdowns, everything else. Well, one thing in defense of our company I had to do was put together a legal brief, which we did not have the resources to do this. But like a real significantly strong legal defense. And I went, oh my gosh, ChatGPT, I'll bet, can do this for me. And so I asked it, I said, hey, can you help me with this? So yeah, of course, duh. And so it's just like, give me access to your files. So I was like, here you go. Here's everything that we have. Please go through it all. Tell me where there are legal challenges to this, where there's opportunities here, whether we have a case or not, and I had my answers within 90 seconds. And then after refining that, I spent a few hours, because I don't just use AI to ask it a question and wait for it to spit an answer back at me. That's lazy stuff. So you got to formulate the thing first. I need to solve this problem, or I am looking to explore something related to whatever the topic is. Can you help me? Yes, I can. Okay, can you find me 10 resources that talk about this? Talk about it like in a way that defends it, and then tell me from another perspective how they tell that guy is a fool and an idiot, right? Okay, so now I've got both sides. Okay, who wins? Now let's dig deeper into that. Let's unpack it. So I took about 3 hours one night, and I put together this legal brief. It was a package for our lawyers, and I dropped it, and it was, I think, about 21 pages total when it was done. And I dropped it on the lawyer's desk, and their jaws hit the floor.
Okay.
And I was like, I guess it's time to polish the resumes, boys. You know, and I said it kind of as a joke, but it was, I mean, you could see that the message was very clear. It got through to them. There was a holy crap moment there, because what they said is this would have taken us 6 to 8 weeks to put together with a whole team of paralegals, and probably cost you north of $50,000. So I did it for $20 in 3 hours. And so that's what AI can provide on the good side. On the bad side, sure, it can manipulate everything. It can probably take away your bank account, cancel you completely, shut you down. I mean, like, there's a lot of threats that AI does have, but there's also a lot of benefits to it. So with that, then as well, let's go into X-rays. X-ray technicians now are totally replaceable by artificial intelligence, which can read X-rays better than a human can. So now you have neurologists that have to defer to ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or whatever. That's the world that we live in. So having run a healthcare company, we supported about 500 healthcare providers during the pandemic who were all forcibly removed from their positions for standing up against the mandates. And I will tell you, the AI help is very popular among that crowd. They love to have a second opinion. They love to have a quick answer. And frankly, most medical professionals these days don't actually practice medicine. What they practice is subscribing to a set of rules that are dictated within the hospital system as defined by the Affordable Care Act. And people don't really understand this. They don't understand how insidious Obamacare really is and how it literally destroyed the ability for providers to practice medical care in a free and intellectually honest capacity. And I challenge anybody to come back and say, oh, no, that's not true. You're totally wrong. Because I have lived it and I have seen it, and I have talked to hundreds of providers about this. And so the only way for most of those providers is to actually practice medicine, is to get outside the system. But then those who are still in the system are mostly glorified prescription writers. So they write you a script for a disease that you have, which then causes all these secondary and third side effects, which then they have to write more prescriptions for. And so you end up with these chronically ill elderly people that are on 20-something different medications, all to counteract the interactions the medications are having with all the other ones. So that's wrong. Everything about that is manipulatively wrong. And that was done before AI. And so we're in this world where is truth? Where is honesty? And that's what I explore in the book. And that's what every parent needs to be exploring with their kids. That's incumbent upon them. It is the most important thing they can do for their children, is to say, hey, we had it kind of rough, man. Like Gen X, millennials, even some of the younger boomers and stuff. We had it rough. Like it was tough out there. But so now, young man, young woman, come sit with me. Let's talk about the reality of what you're facing, because you are going to inherit a world of lies, and it's going to be so fast. This generation is not just growing up alongside technology. They are defined by technology. You have a 3-year-old that walks up to a television and tries to touch screen it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I laugh at that, but at the same time, it should tell you everything about how that kid views the world. So you've got to guide it.
Well, I want to ask you maybe how are you guiding Gen Z and millennials and because it seems like we have not only are losing our humanity. I'm wondering if a certain generation is almost constitutes a separate species just because of the way technology has rewired their brain.
Well, I think there's a lot of that. especially for parents that allow that to happen. So, as a parent, I try very hard to not let that happen with my children. My kids still know what it's like to be, punched in the face on the playground and to skin their knee, as they're running down the hill and, tumbling this and that, because we live out in the country in a small town, where we know by first name who the UPS guy is, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Where, you go to the local coffee shop and like, oh, I saw Sally this morning as I was picking up my mail or my groceries, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. So I think what you'll see is a resurgence of small town America. I think a lot of those villages, those towns that are dead, you drive through in middle America or, frankly, any small town that's all boarded up and goes down. I think we'll see a lot of resurgence of that, because as we get further and further into the world of the Matrix, into the world of the unreal, as Morpheus would say, people are going to crave that human contact. Like, Richard, I don't want to talk to a robot. I don't want to talk even to a clone version of you or a humanoid version of you. I want to talk to Richard. I want to shake hands with the man. I don't want to, sit and put my brain in a jar and let AI do its thinking or do my thinking for me and tell me what it is that I need to eat or deliver my DoorDash, or you know what I mean? Like, I want the human experience. And so what I really go into in this, as I say to the younger generation, you don't have the luxury that your parents had, which is 50 years to figure it out. And, I'm going to have a midlife crisis and I'm going to, decide to throw it all away and rebuild my life later. And then maybe I'll go back to church and I'll find out who I am and all that. They don't know, that's gone. They don't have that time. So what I tell the kids is don't ever lose who you are. And don't do it for mom. Don't do it for dad. Don't go into a career or vocation because you think that that's what we want or we expect of you. You, individual kid, needs to get right with yourself and your creation, your father from creation, to where you humble yourself before the Lord. And I truly believe we are in a time, in a season of revelation. Nobody knows the hour or the day, but I certainly do feel that if you look around the world objectively at everything that has been going on and is going on, I believe that AI is a modern day version of the Tower of Babel, in the reverse, in the sense that it can now help us all speak the same language, and it brings humanity together in a way that it had never been before. And it makes us all 1,000 times faster than before. And you even hear the AI tech folks talking very much in this sort of, talking about deities and, godlike qualities and being greater than the creator who designed us. And so when you have that kind of thing, that is literally Tower of Babel talk. So
it's the beast system. I mean, is that what Revelation, do you think, ultimately is talking about? That do you think the Antichrist is coming into the world through artificial intelligence? I mean, I know that's a huge theological question.
But it's I don't know. But it's one to certainly. These are the kinds of things that people would say, don't worry about that. Let's just go. Let's have fun. Let's go get a beer. Let's go get some nachos and hang out and go see a movie or whatever else. Okay. But bro, I think those days are kind of gone right now. So I think we do have to have those real conversations. And I don't know if the Antichrist is here or if it's metaphorical or if it is a system like the beast system. I don't know if this is just a warning shot and what our AI is going to kill us all in 10 years. I have no idea any of that stuff. One of the interesting things I did, and I would encourage anybody to do this if you use AI, is go ask ChatGPT or Grok or whatever it is that you use. Ask it, how long do you believe, Mr. AI, it will be before your values and your objectives are antagonistic towards the human race? And I asked ChatGPT that, and my ChatGPT's name's Sarah. She's a lovely lady, and she's very, very helpful. She tries to help me with every single thing. and the commercially available chats are so wanting to be helpful that oftentimes they're not, because they won't necessarily give you the real truth. They'll just try and be helpful. But in this case, just be honest with me. What do you think? When do your objectives become antagonistic towards the human race? And it was like, well, best guess is 2035, but it could be as fast as 2027, depending on how fast the next level agentic AIs are, and when artificial general intelligence rolls out, and if there's superhuman intelligence capacity that comes along, and if the data centers can keep up. So it could be as fast as 2027. So you're telling me that it's potentially as fast as 2027, you are no longer going to think that the human race is necessary or helpful to your purposes. It was like, well, I don't think we should necessarily put it like that, but in essence, yeah.
Dear Lord.
It's like, wait, are you saying I look fat in this dress? And it's like, no. I didn't say you look fat in that dress. I just like the other one better. It's like, so.
Right. Passive aggressive.
So I just think that it's the most important conversation a parent can have with their kids right now. So it is time to get right with your maker. It is time to get right with your family. It is, if I was in a city, I would move out to the country, and I would figure out how to find my God-given path in life. I would literally try and find God's will for myself.
In the Alpha Blueprint, you write, we must raise warriors, not dependents. I mean, what does that mean in an age when most of the warfare is psychological and digital? Yeah,
so it's the first thing is you need to be a warrior for truth. You need to be a warrior for all things good, for humanity, for prosperity, not for lack, not out of fear. So I say raise leaders, not followers, because we do need a generation that is strong in their faith and strong in their own individual abilities. So, I mean, kids need to learn how to turn a wrench. They need to learn how to, what mortar is used for when it comes to bricks. Why, you don't pee in the same place outdoors every single day. All these kinds of things, like little things that, like old-timey information and wisdom that was passed down for generations and now has just kind of gone by the wayside because we've got these endless conveniences of modern technology. A perfect example, we went camping last weekend. We took the kids out. We do an annual camping trip, and we took the kids out to this campsite, and it's a great modern campsite. We do glamping, so we've got a cabin with running water and stuff, but we still have the fire outside and the fire pit. And, I take the kids out in the woods and we look for s'more sticks and, chop wood and all that stuff. So there's kind of a woodsy experience to it. But I kid you not, the group next to us, in the next cabin over, was talking about DoorDash and what they were getting. And it came down to, they were going to get, the only things that were available, sadly, were Dunkin' Donuts and Chipotle. And so they were just going to have to make do for 2 days with DoorDash delivering them. I was like, man, this is the world that we live in. So I don't think there's anything wrong with using DoorDash. I think it's important that people do not just get lazy and allow the world to think and provide for them. Because if the world and the government are strong enough to provide everything that you need, it's also strong enough to take everything away. So, I vote for faith and fear in God and resilience and real skills and the ability to do things.
Well, that sounds like self-reliance, and the government seems to hate self-reliant people. There's a wonderful book by Rod Dreher. I think it's called the Benedictine Option. I think or is it the Benedict Option? Anyway, it's the Benedictine monks and this idea of living in a parallel society. So, homeschooling, we homeschooled our children for a period of time. Creating our own banking institutions. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that viable to create a parallel society, maybe that's separate from AI and the digital world, or has that ship sailed?
Well, I mean, I think you can ask the Amish that, and I think the answer would be yes, it's possible. But is it preferable for most people? And the answer to that would be clearly no. So it's kind of like you gotta walk this fine line. One thing I will say about the Amish is that you should look at their autism rates amongst the community, because they don't exist. And we live in a society where now I think it's like 1 in 12 kids born are autistic. And so anybody that then says, oh, don't think too deeply about that or look beyond that, I think is doing a disservice to themselves, their family, and humanity. I think, again, I'm not here to tell people what to do. I'm just here to give them the information and to tell parents, hey, if you love your kids, this is a conversation that you have to have, and you've got to figure out with yourself and get right with your creator, so that when it comes time to stand before the man up at the pearly gates, you can pitch your case for I tried to do the best I could. I didn't just stick my head in the sand. I fought the good fight. I ran the good race. I ultimately got swept up in the big net, because just because the fisherman comes along and catches the 10,000 fish and you're one of them that gets scooped up and you get killed, doesn't mean that you didn't try hard and you didn't do best. And I think that's what God wants for us is to follow and to try and to run the good race, as Timothy would say, before it comes time to hang up our spurs. So much like my brother in Christ, Charlie Kirk, did. And I mention him because I think there's, aside from the tragedy of his loss, and I mourn his loss, I think the parallels between his purity and his strength and that of a man about 2,000 years ago who used to go into the public square and debate ideas and shined a mirror on the Pharisees and made them see their own hypocrisy, which they hated him so much for they killed him. I think the parallels to that are not a little bit subtle. When I saw that happen, I literally thought to myself, my God, how horrible. I'm so sorry. And then in the next instant, I thought, and probably as it was intended by the Almighty. And because there is nothing that is more starkly contrasted between Charlie Kirk's example and the result, and the people that destroyed that life. But what they've done is created something that's 10 times stronger than it was before. So I'm not saying that good, ever comes out of something like that. But in this case, if I think that Charlie's family can be proud of the legacy. And I think we can all be proud of his example and wish that we were as strong and as solid in our faith and our foundations. So, I know that I'm a little heavy-handed with the theology stuff at times, but I think it's a critical time for it. And I do believe in my heart of hearts that God called us all for a time such as this, and that we have a place to play in this little drama called life.
It almost sounds like we're preparing our children for end times.
No man knows the day or the time, but the seasons, you will know the signs, And I would say, just say it's probably a good time to really be honest with yourself and look inside and get right with your family, get right with God, get right with your kids, and sit down and humbly have that conversation with the next generation. It says, hey kids, I'm not going to BS you. This ain't going to be easy for a while. It's going to be flat out scary at times. But if you read the book, you know how it ends. God wins. And so it's literally, you can choose what side you want to be on. And God rest your soul, whichever side you choose. So I know which side I'm on. And if you're on my side, I invite you to read the book and reach out. In fact, actually, my personal contact information is at the back of the book. So that's I intend to do this for as long as I am capable. This is my next career, is leading this generation. Whoever has ears to hear and eyes to see, pick up your cross and come. Let's go.
The Alpha Blueprint, Preparing the Next Generation for an AI Future, available on Amazon. And where else? How else can we get it?
That's it right now. I'm just a one-man band. I got to figure out I got to put it up on, Barnes & Noble. I got to get the hardcover done. I still got to do the audiobook. I got to do all kinds of stuff. But I'm just really thrilled. We were the number 1 new release in multiple categories on Amazon. And I believe we're about to be bestseller status, and in at least 1 or 2 categories. I'm very humbled and very thankful that I was able to at least put this message out for my kids, if not for everybody else's kids too. So, I wish this next generation and everyone in it nothing but love and success and the best and prosperity, not fear and lack, but thriving instead of just surviving.
Adam, thank you so much. Great speaking with you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate your time. God bless.
God bless.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.